Good morning, traders. Hope you're all doing well and that you're having a fantastic week so far. Yesterday was the 1st of November, so we're going to have a quick just day review of what happened yesterday, and we'll just do a quick analysis for today or the rest of the week then as well. So what we'll start off by doing is just looking at yesterday's price action, then we'll go on to the weekly and see what potentially we could expect for this week. And we're also going to look at S&P 500, or US 500. So we're going to have a look at those two things. So I'm first of all just going to use bar replay for a second. Just want to get the timing right over here. So the right time is right. Okay, so we're going to have a look at what happened yesterday. So London Open. So we can see a few things. First of all, last week price rallied towards the upside. We had these two big pushes towards the upside, this one and then this one. Nudge should appear in just a bit. And then we made this high toward at the top, pushed lower, we pushed back up, but we failed to make a higher high. So you can see the price made that high over there, pushed down, pushed back up, failed to make a higher high, we failed to go up, and we made instead a lower high. This is an indication that price is then potentially going to trade further towards the downside. So we see price trade towards the downside, and then we see price break the structure low. This is a 4-hour and a 1-hour area. So if you look at the 4-hour, you can see there's the 4-hour candle zone, and just on the 1-hour refined to the last piece of candle before the move towards the upside. So just noted that. If you look at the down closing candle, you can see how price reacted to that down closing candle before moving up higher. So we had all of this imbalance in here. The price came and filled with this move towards the downside. So that has been covered and cleared out. We see price dip towards the downside, and then Asian session just explodes towards the upside. We see price reacting a little bit, and then all of a sudden Asian session kicks in and price starts pumping higher and higher, which makes it a little bit difficult to trade in London session. That's not my ideal setup, isn't when Asian session is pumping like this. So let's get all the price back. So what happened is Asian session pumped towards the upside. We came into this block, and I thought to myself, okay, if this area breaks, then we're potentially going to see price trade up higher. So we did see the break towards the upside. Price came down, retested something. Nothing clear for me personally. I wouldn't take anything in here. We may maybe have that little block, but there's so many wicks in it already. There's no clean leg out. No, it's just like a slope towards the upside. But we come back, retest it, and we start trading towards the upside. And then price, I see, ultimately reaches for this little area towards the upside. Yes, but when price is chopping like this, I'm not even interested in it anymore. Then it's not doing what we want to see it do. Then we had the news release at 4 o'clock my time. We see this puppy drop towards the downside. So we're going to have a look at it now in terms of liquidity. But first of all, we see the reaction towards the downside. So we reacted off of this block. Where do we have liquidity resting now? So obviously everyone that went long, they have the buys and stop losses below these lows. So those are all the lows that react as liquidity lows. So we see price then aiming for all of those, dives deeper into that block. But besides the point, we see price then rallying towards the downside. So by this time, I wasn't looking at GU anymore. So we're going to have a quick look if price gave a lower time frame entry as it tapped into this block. So what do we see happening over here? So actually, there might have been a few things. So we see price rally above this short-term high. We take it out, and then we see price dropping lower, but there were no structure break. Then price came back up, filled, just tapped this little block, filled some of the imbalance, and then started trading lower. Still no structure break. So you can see there's still no structure breaks. It's only after this candle that we see the structure break. and then price returns to this block. But even still, it's not a super, there's no imbalance, it's not a full body candle. There's a lot of things counting against taking a trade from here. But if that was the case, would have had a entry like this, stop loss above that high, maybe just leave a little room for spreads, and then be targeting the sell side liquidity as mentioned. So we then have the low, the low, the low, all those lows would have been target. If we just took the first one for nice 5R trade. So that could have been something. I was not looking at you at all during this time, but I think that would have been the play if we look at it like that. If you held it all the way, obviously get a massive reward, but we're not about that game. So what happened now? Well, where are we now? What can we expect going forward? Let's have a quick look at the weekly and just see what the weekly has started doing. We're already up a few days into the week. So let's remove this. We can see that the previous weekly candle strongly closed above previous highs. And we see this weekly candle retracing into this candle. We just tapped the previous week's high. We just tapped it, leaving no imbalance behind. So my suggestion or my thoughts is that we potentially could see price rally up higher, maybe even in the coming weeks, see price reach this area. So that's a big maybe. The reason why I'm saying maybe is that I know there's a lot of things happening in the UK. I'm not sure that its currency or its economy is as stable as it used to be. But I'm not a financial political analyst. Uh, I'm not an expert in that. All that I know is that I think there's a lot of uncertainty, and the price could behave irrationally, meaning a lot of wicks and stuff. So it could mean a little bit of difficulty if we really want to see price move. So we might not get exactly clean moves as we would expect it to. But from a technical point of view, this high and then this area is a good draw on liquidity for me, where we could potentially see price trade to in the coming weeks. Seeing that this is the weekly time frame, we did previous week, we did close very bullish above previous highs, weekly highs. We see this week coming down, retracing, filling this imbalance that was in this candle, making sure there's none left, tapping the previous week's high. And then my expectation is then to potentially see it rally towards the upside and then create the wick also on the weekly time frame, because there's currently no wick on the weekly time frame. So that being said, if we then take all of that into the 15 minutes, let's first go to the 1 hour. Then potentially we want to see price going up towards the upside. Now, in terms of structure, we've now reacted from this little extreme. In terms of structure, we want to see structure being broken towards the upside. Now, these highs become liquidity areas. So we've seen price now sweep this liquidity. We've traded into this imbalance. We tapped into this block. Now, all of these highs become open for open season. They have liquidity now resting above them. So we can now potentially expect, if price gives us the indication it wants to go up higher, then that would be a target, that would be a target, that would be a target, and ultimately that high and then the imbalance above. But you can see on a 1 hour time frame, there's still a lot that needs to happen before price reaches this upside target. Now, if price does in fact give us indication for shorts rather, meaning that if we then react off of this little area, if we do this and we start trading lower and we start breaking more structure towards the downside, then obviously the trend is still bearish and we could expect price to reach levels such as this block here below, fill this imbalance that we have over here. So this would be an area that we could then potentially see price trade to next. So that's something to keep in mind. So I've said a lot. Make notes, check your charts, see what you want to do. But in terms for today, I'm not sure. I'm not going to be focused on trading GU. Just how it's moving. It's not part of my plan how I want to trade it. It's big ranges, training Asian session. I want to see training, ranging Asian session, and I'm not seeing that. So I'm not even going to bother looking at it. That's a really ugly price action. So with that being said, we're just going to quickly, not analyze, just quickly review the S&P from yesterday. So what happened yesterday? So Monday, we opened with a gap. We traded towards the downside. And I said in the community, I'm looking for that gap to be filled. So when price dipped towards the downside, I was expecting price to potentially move back up towards the gap. But we first made a deeper dip. So after, let's go to the 15 minutes. So we had this move from this block moving towards the downside, clearing out the sell side liquidity below this low, and then price reacted from something in here. We're not sure what, but it reacted. And then it was just choppy, messy the rest of the day. Nothing really happening. Then yesterday, price just started slowly trading towards the upside, making a pullback and continuing towards the upside. Ultimately, trading towards this buy side liquidity, this liquidity high, as well as the imbalance, sorry, the gap that was left there. So we could see then price traded up into this area. That's why I said if we see a break lower, I would expect price to reach down all the way towards the sell side liquidity, because ultimately this just became trendline liquidity because there were a lot of people that kept buying the lows, buy, buy. They have the stop losses below. That then becomes liquidity, and then price clears it like a hot knife through butter. So that's then what happened over there. In terms of entries, let me show you. Let's quickly get there. So this was very choppy and messy. But if you use the same criteria that we always use, then you'll find the entry. So there we have relative equal highs, price trades above it, then starts to break structure. So we don't yet break structure, but we failed to make a higher high. That is the key. We failed to make a higher high, and then we see price starting to break structure. So there we had the cleanest breakdown, breaking structure, multiple structure points. So we have 1, 2, 3 lows the price broke with this move towards the downside. Now, this is where people would disagree and will have different points of view, which is absolutely fine. But could argue that the origin of where that break happened is in your zone. That would be then this long candle. If we just maybe look at the 2 minutes. No, 2 minute doesn't give us anything better. The 3 minute, potentially the 3 minute would be this candle. So then that would be your zone. You would have your entry like this. In this case, well, I would potentially have my stop loss above this wick, or maybe even that high, but not too close because I know it could get volatile. So I'll leave room for my stop loss. And then liquidity objectives, as mentioned, the main objective would be this low, but exactly the same with the previous example on GU. All of these lows would be your sell side liquidity objectives. So there's multiple places to take partials and then clean out the trade. I will definitely not hold it for this long because not every day it's going to be a home run like that. This would be my sweet spot, 7R. That's what I'm comfortable with. And yeah, we see price then just continue dropping lower. Made a low, chopping around now. Again, same thing, price now failed to make a lower low. Instead, we made a higher low. Price starting to trend towards the upside, it's just accumulating. So we could see price rally go up a bit. In terms of higher time frame analysis, let's just quickly clear all of this. I'm not 100% sure. All that I do see is that we have the imbalance up here. I think that's kind of what my intention would be to trade to. It's also in this weekly block as well. So I'm kind of thinking trading towards this imbalance. But other than that, I don't have any clear or clean idea of where price could be trading to. Obviously, the previous high is then the first objective, but then trading up into this daily imbalance could be the next draw on liquidity. So that's it from my side, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a bit of a longer video, but more of analysis as well as review. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.